The first of the 5 frequencies is our decisions and actions. We spend all day making decisions and taking actions. The question is, are those decisions and actions consistent with what we say is important? For example, if we believe that all managers should be coaches, if I look at your schedule and can't find one instance where you have scheduled time for coaching, well, your actions are not consistent with what you say is important. So we have to audit and plan our decisions and actions to be in line with what we believe is important. Many of you know I like to coach soccer, and I like to use examples from my coaching experience in relation to this topic because we can all relate to being a kid in development opportunities or perhaps as a parent. So when we talk about our decisions and actions, are they consistent with what we say is important? I believe that I want my players to take responsibility for their own self-improvement, practice at home, juggle the ball at home. But what if I, as a coach, don't take responsibility for my own improvement? And so I make sure each year that I take on educational opportunities so that I can improve as a coach. I can't expect my players to take responsibility for self-improvement if I don't do the same. In another example, almost every youth coach will say that developing the player is more important than winning and losing. But then that whistle blows and the game starts, and all of that tends to go out the window. There was an opportunity a couple of years ago where I had a player who made a catastrophic mistake, which gave the other team the lead. They had hurt their team. They were a young player, and the tears started to flow, and the focus was gone. If the win was most important, the best decision was to remove the player from action. But that was the worst thing to do for their development. It would teach them that we can just step aside when we make a mistake. Instead, they needed to learn how to compose themselves and regain their focus. So I left the player in. The opponent scored another goal and another goal before they regained their composure. And then we played a great game after that. But this player has learned through many experiences how to regain their composure. They still get upset when they make a mistake, but the speed at which they compose themselves is a life skill that is important to learn in these instances. Most importantly, as a coach, are my decisions and actions truly about developing the player, or are they just about wins and losses? A long time ago, back when I worked in a factory, part of our transformation model was that we were going to measure in a balanced way 5 things: safety, quality, delivery, cost, and morale. The message was that they were all important, but they were important in that sequence. Now, we set up a lot of systems to help reinforce this message. However, in terms of actually leading the factory operation, my phone only rang when I missed delivery. I went to great lengths to protect the rest of the organization from this knowledge because I didn't want them believing that delivery was not only the most important thing, but the only important thing. But no matter what I tried, everybody knew. So I had to have some very serious conversations with some of my executive leadership about what their actions were sending signals about into my organization. And that they can't just beat me up for delivery. They either need to stop beating me up for delivery or start beating me up when I miss on those other metrics as well. Because the decisions and actions that were taken did not reinforce that message that we cared about safety, quality, delivery, cost, and morale in that order and all at the same time. Another example from my time in a factory was that I noticed every day when we would have our operations meeting, we would discuss the previous day's problems. However, the deeper we dug, I would very quickly notice that most people hadn't seen the problem we were talking about. We all had an opinion about how to fix it, but none of us had seen it. So I put a rule in place. So my decision was that you didn't get to have an opinion unless you saw the problem. It was a rather draconian rule, but the purpose was to force people to go and see the problem. Everybody knew what problems we would discuss. They just needed to take some time before our daily meeting to make sure they had seen it. And what they found every time they did was that they didn't understand it quite as well as they thought. And our discussions were far more productive. And so I believed that direct observation of problems was important, and that rule, that decision, was important to reinforce what I believed was important. So as you think about these examples, think about your beliefs, and are your decisions and actions consistent with what you say is important?